Oh no.
What's up?
Said no for some reason.
Right.
Giving me code, broadcaster code. Closed captions, type not allowed. Current status reason. Closed captions. Hang on. So I got to go into my closed caption settings on my YouTube channel now.
Okay.
What a joke. Are you busy or am I holding you up? Okay, good.
Not at all. Not at all.
Sorry, dude. It says live on YouTube right now.
Okay.
Yep, it's live. We're live right now, I guess.
Okay, cool. Right.
Yep, we're live. We're sitting here live, not even knowing it.
All right. Is anyone there, do you reckon?
I don't know. We'll see. Well, they'll show up eventually because I do this all the time. I do it at the seat of my pants all the time. So
right,
they'll start showing up.
Okay.
All right, guys, we're back and we got the Zoom software, so we're done with that nonsense of Google. That's kind of weird. I mean, we've never had an issue like that before, audio issues, but just nuts. Now let's see if we can get back on track here.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I got to record this. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Record. Okay, we'll record it.
Oh, yeah. That's come up.
Yeah, we got one person online with us already, and that's awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, this is Phil Langdon, and we've attempted to do this through Google Hangouts, and it was unsuccessful. And I'm Slightly Slanted Sleuth, and we're talking about the Enlightenment process. And I don't know. We can start we can start all over and just give a basics of what you think is the best for the layman, I guess, for the beginner as to what we're talking about. What in your experience, just give us a quick rundown of what we said already. About your experience and reason why you went after it.
Yeah, you were talking about your daughter asking you why are we here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's exactly what I asked myself years ago when I was a child. Yeah, and I didn't think I'd get anywhere with it, to be honest, because the older I got, the more I realized that the oldest people in society, their advice, I actually asked some people early on, what do you think the meaning of life is? And their response was, don't worry about that, just enjoy yourself. And then I started reading religious scripture from all over the world, and I was reading things like, those who look for enjoyment only don't get anywhere. Do you see what I mean? And I've just heard the oldest people in society telling me that just to enjoy yourself. So I realized there was a real mess of understanding. So I thought, so I had to find out for myself. So that's what I did. You don't need to become a physicist or anything, but I thought the best thing to do would be to learn about physical reality around me and the nature of the psyche in the subject called psychology. So I started out by learning those two properly, because I tried a couple of religions before doing that, and they were a bit weird. So I thought, I need to start from the ground up. But now that I've done it and reached the end of it, I can explain what is important about it to anybody else, because there was no one there to explain it to me. So I had to go through all the trials and errors, Fine, you might think that that's a good idea for everyone to do that, but the fact is very few people make it to the end because they give up. So you mustn't give up in that search, that sort of quest for truth.
And that's precisely what I did mine in a backwoods kind of way, a hillbilly-ish way. I've always been interested in the truth. I woke up like my daughter, like I said about my daughter, she's 10 now, but I mean, the first, I don't know, she was 2.5, and we walked out to drop her brother off at the bus stop, in kindergarten. And she looked up and she said, "Daddy, why is there a man on the moon?" And the second she said that, I knew she was special, So, and then as 5, 6 years old, that's a good question I want to ask you. That just came to mind. Now she's 5 years old, 6 years old, and she had the same questions you just said. That we just said that. And why is it when I talk to my children that are younger, they look interested, and you can see it in their eyes. You know what I'm talking about when you talk to somebody about something that's like this, and they get this glaze over their eyes.
Uh-huh.
What do you think the reason is why kids are open to it?
Probably because their minds are not closed with any opinions yet. They're like sponges. They want to know everything first, you know, and they expect their parents to know everything. I expected my parents to be perfect when I was a child, and I thought they were when I was really young. But as I got older, I realized they were full of problems, and that I didn't want to have the same life. You know, I thought if there is a way to solve these problems, I want to solve them and have a better life for myself. I know a lot of people think like that and try and do that, and they don't always succeed. But I with all my looking around to see what was possible for me to find out, and the stuff I was reading, I realized that people had reached something important in the past, and that if they can do it, I can do it, and you can do it as well. We're all the same. You know, nobody is born a sage. Nobody. Everyone's born a fool. That's the normal way. And it's up to you to turn yourself from a fool into a sage. In a sense, that's one way of putting it, you know.
And that's the reason for the tarot deck, the first card being a fool, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. It also means that when you start this process, the first thing you do is you take on an honesty with yourself, so that you turn your attention to yourself and you realize that you yourself are a bit of a fool. You know, I realized this about myself. I thought, my God, I'm absolutely stupid. When I compare myself to all these amazing things that I'm reading about, I am an idiot, you know, and I recognize that. And that made me think, well, I don't know anything, so let me try and figure things out. Yeah.
So because I've been purging I don't know what the whole crying thing is about. You kind of smile at it because why?
Because I can relate to that. After the meeting with the Infinite, I was in tears for about 15 months after, continuously, every single day. I'd find myself just crying from the amazing transformation it gives you. Yeah, when you find things out, it can make you cry as well, because you think, my God, it took me 20 years just to find that out. You know, why take so long? Why can't it just be available right now? Why is it not a library online that says, look, here's the established truth for you? Where is that? You know, I don't understand why that doesn't exist, because it used to exist on Earth. So what happened there? Someone's removed it.
Yeah, I think we know. Why don't you touch on that a little bit? What's your opinion on that?
Right, power hunger. It's people who are so intellectual that they go for power instead of understanding. They only reach a certain level in their understanding anyway, and they're not interested in going any further because they prefer power. Unless you experience the infinite, you won't know that it really exists. So none of them know that it really exists. They don't care about it anymore, and that's become the norm. It's just ingrained in those families that have too much, you know, too much power. That they have power. That's their everyday bread and butter. And the human psychology is the issue there. So. It depends on them and whether they want to go beyond that and look for something higher, because they can have better for themselves as well if they go higher. Obviously, with all their mistakes they've made, there's a lot of karma and catching up for them to do. And the more someone creates karma for themselves, the less likely they are to want to get out of it. You know, they dig their own graves, basically.
There goes one of those old analogies. You dig your own hole. You dig your hole, and it's harder to get out of it as you're getting older.
The deeper the hole is, the harder it is for you to get out. Yeah. But you can get out of it. You know, if you genuinely change your heart towards what's right, you can redeem yourself. Anyone can. I just remembered I didn't really answer your earlier question about why people have a glazed look on their face when you tell them things. Very briefly. It's because they are at a certain level in their understanding, and the words you use may not be relatable to them. If you're talking about an experience they haven't had, they can't relate to what you're saying. So all you can do is describe the best you can and hope that they can sort of think, well, you know what you're talking about, so there's something in it maybe. But a lot of people just want answers immediately, you know, and a lot of those answers require a very deep understanding in the first place. like, what is the meaning of life? The answer to that is know thyself. But what does that mean? Well, you've given them the answer, but they have no clue what it means. So some people will say, well, know me, myself. I already know myself. I live with myself every day. What are you talking about? That's not what that statement is saying. It's saying know your true self. In other words, know God, you know? That's what it means. But that has been, because it's so overly simplified, no one recognizes that it's telling them something very deep.
Sorry, I'm putting on my coat because it's like 20 below here right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, man.
it's really cold, and I'm in my camper, and you know.
Yeah.
So,
No
but
worries.
but yeah, my anytime you pull out the God word, you know, the G word, you pull the G word out of your pocket or out of, you know, you say it, and people are just turned off by it instantly.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm not religious.
Explain that.
Yeah, I'm not religious. A religion is designed to get you to meet the infinite. And there's only one infinite. It's your true self, the infinite. Once you meet it, you don't need the religion anymore. Yeah, because the purpose of the religion was to get you to that point. Once you get to that point, what's the point in having the religion? For you, you don't need to get involved in the religion anymore then, because you know for yourself. You know, it's just a stepping stone, a religious book, basically. That's all.
Sorry, I'm trying right now. I'm trying to get these people on, get them back here. You know, that's what I'm doing with my phone. So I apologize. I'm paying attention.
That's all right. That's okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to multitask here, so forgive me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. This is a much more stable platform. You agree?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's continuous. Yeah.
And when you cut each other off, it's not a burp, burp, beep, burp, and yeah, so it's way better.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I was discussing with a friend earlier about the texting thing and the computer keyboard thing, and how you cannot convey, you know, your thoughts over the computer in text messaging. And
Yeah.
you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. That's exactly the subject and issue of the philosophical notion of deconstruction. It's called deconstruction. There was a French philosopher who brought this up called Jacques Derrida, and his main issue was that we can never convey the real meaning of things using words, because if you're talking about an experience, you can't give someone else an experience.
Right.
Directly. You can't. It's not possible. They have to experience it themselves. So words are nothing but references that we try to use to communicate with each other. Yeah. And it will never get... I try my best to use words and phrases that get the idea across as best as I can, but that's the best I can do. Same with anyone, you know.
Well, I can tell you from my experience of trying to explain just the minor parts or the beginning stages of what you've experienced, that it's impossible to get through to anybody's head because they think it's too enormous for them to fathom or to even take on.
Yeah, that also has to do with the fact that in this world, religious concepts and ideas are presented as superhuman and beyond the norm, and that's automatically what people think of them. So if someone says they've experienced it, that's a really big deal to them, you know, when in fact it's perfectly normal to have that experience. I found out it's supposed to happen to everyone in middle age. Yeah.
That's why I'm at that point right now, because I'm at middle age right now. Yeah,
I'm sure that's you know, you obviously are trying to figure it out. You know, you're trying to find the answer for yourself as well. And I'm not surprised, because you've got that mentality that wants to know and wants to understand. You know.
Yes, that's always been in my paradigm, my reality.
Yeah, sure. I also find that gurus and people online who seem to claim to have got somewhere and become enlightened or what have you, often leave people in a confused state, because they don't explain themselves well enough and they don't present themselves as being a regular person still. You know, I feel like a regular person, even though I don't really feel human anymore. But I can still communicate and resonate with the normal, regular nature of a human being. You know, I haven't forgotten that. You know what I mean? Just because I've gone beyond it, it doesn't mean it's all gone. And you see, I don't wear long white robes and I don't grow my hair and long beard, you know. I met a guy, a friend of mine, who was looking at my YouTube videos. He actually turned out to live nearby, and I met up with him. And he said, Phil, you're a guru, but you don't look like one. That's why no one takes you seriously. And I thought, my God, yeah, I get that. But I'm not going to start dressing up for it.
Hey, I like you for what you are, man, because it's you're real. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So it makes you question, well, all these gurus, what are they doing? Why are they dressing up like that? The ones who live in India, I suppose it's normal for them to wear long white robes and grow their beards and what have you. But to me, that's just really uncomfortable, you know, and they seem to, their culture seems to allow them just to sit around all day preaching, you know. I haven't got time to do that. I've got to go to work like everybody else, you know. So, and I do not have an ashram. I don't feel like making an ashram because that creates group problems and toxicity, you know.
What's an ashram? What's an ashram?
An ashram is like a temple that's empty inside that you invite your followers to, and they listen to you talking. Oh. It's like your home from now on, and they're supposed to give you money and feed you and all this sort of thing. That's never going to happen in London, you know.
Right.
So, yeah.
And was there a set of circumstances that you can look back on before you met me that it was like odd to you that you came across me, or, you know, was there anything that, you know, I don't know, because I felt like we were kind of drawn to each other, or I was drawn to you, and it was via Danielle. You know, she helped me big time with that. You know, it was weird because she said, I don't know why I didn't have you meet Phil. I don't know why, you know, but here, check his video out. And okay.
Well, it's actually quite convenient that it happened at this time. It's been 4 years for me since all the events. So I've had 4 years of experience of it, enough to be able to express it really well. If you'd caught me 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to say half the things that I say, because it still takes time for you to filter the vast knowledge that you've suddenly gained in a flash, in a moment. It takes time for that to filter into your conscious awareness, depending on your conscious focus. So if I then look at the time, I was looking at Egyptian things a lot. When I looked at them, I started to understand them within a few seconds. But I didn't understand the Babylonian thing because there are so many cultural idioms and words and phrases to get your head around in the first place. You need to get through that to identify what they're talking about. Then you know what they're talking about. But you'll only know what they're talking about if you know the original experience that they're referring to. So I've got the experience, and it's just taken time for me to see through the cultural expressions, as it were, to find out, oh, that's what they're talking about. I see, and that's how they talk about it, right? And I started that process by reading the book of Revelations. That's the first book I read immediately after I saw the cloud, and I recognized what was being said. I understood most of it immediately, but I had to look up a few little issues just to see how things are expressed. You know, so I recognized the Lamb of God. It kept saying the Lamb of God, and I thought, oh my God, it's the cloud. I see, and now I get it. Okay, now it's coming. It's making sense. You know.
Do you have your pictures with you on that computer? You can hit your screen share and see if you can.
Yeah. Okay.
The screen share should work for you.
Okie dokie. Let me try that. I'll get it up. I've got it here in a Word file. Hang on 2 secs.
All right. I've got a quick question for you too. Ronnie G wants to know about ghosts. On the last live stream, you had mentioned them, and he wants to know: are they beings that have been somehow trapped or escaped reincarnation in enlightenment cycle?
Right, there's a heck of a lot to say in answer to that question. For that person who's asked the question to understand it, they would have to understand the nature of the underworld. Okay, the underworld is basically your mental space that is contained in your head, first of all, inverted and shot out to infinity in all directions. So your mind space now becomes one with infinite pitch black space.
That's insane.
Because when you think, you see things in your mind. When it inverts and goes to infinity, everything you think about appears outside of you now. So there's the basic nature of the underworld. When people die, they leave their body, basically. Of course, they have different experiences depending on their spiritual needs. But generally, according to ancient Egypt as well, everybody enters the underworld and will experience whatever they expect, because it's literally their thoughts, their expectations manifesting around them, just as their thoughts. Many people get confused with this, but because it's one with outer space, the underworld, they can still have an effect in the physical world just by thinking of their home. For instance, if somebody dies suddenly and they realize something's changed, they will immediately go back to their house or their most familiar dwelling. And they will literally be there in spirit, or their mentality will be there. And they might register in a certain way to the living people who are still there in that space. So there are connections made. I can see that. And I've only just started fathoming the details of how that works, because I've spent most of the last 4 years on symbolism and ancient cultures. Now I'm focusing on ghost spirits and more modern issues. So I need to think about that a bit more myself to go into it. But the basis of understanding ghosts and spirits is that your mind space becomes one with outer space before you incarnate again. Yeah, and then it's closed up again.
And and if you don't make that connection like you've made, you're just bound to this plane until you make that connection, correct?
You will not find heaven unless you are in a physical body.
Okay.
You find heaven from the physical body. There is no other way to find heaven, ever. You cannot find heaven from the underworld. It's not possible. See? Because you need to find definition. The only way to get definition of the truth, the singular nature of it, is to be in the physical world. Because it's indifferent, the truth. And in the underworld, if you can invent anything, nothing is teaching you anything. You will learn nothing in the underworld, because it's nothing but your thoughts expressing themselves in front of you. And they'll do whatever you want. So you learn nothing. It teaches you nothing.
Is that why when people have near-death experiences, some of them have the best pristine experience and they've experienced God, they think, or what they think God is, you know?
Yeah.
Is that your opinion, what that's about?
Yeah, and some people experience hell when they have near-death experiences as well. There's all sorts of stories. I've heard so many different stories. They're all different. That proves that it's what they expect. And it's just coming from them. It's just their thoughts expressing themselves as a surrounding environment for them. And of course, we all come from that highest anyway. So you can have very high sort of seeming experiences. But you cannot meet God in that condition. You can only meet God from the physical world, it turns out.
Were you able to get your screen share going?
Yeah, I've got it up, ready to go.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Can you see that?
You have to hit share, I believe.
Yeah, I've done that. My screen's now gone black, and it's gone back to my Word document. Okay, now we're in the far right-hand corner.
There you go. It's working.
Can you see it?
Yep, the axion.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So there are three versions of the same. You can see the middle one says Serapis underneath it.
Yep.
On the pedestal he's standing on, it says Serapis.
Yep.
So Serapis comes from the word seraph. And I learned, a friend of mine online is called Pierre Sabac, and he is an etymologist. He studies the origin and roots of words. And thanks to him, I've understood the original meaning of some of these words. And seraph means fire or light. So a seraphim is an angel of the light.
Wow.
So Serapis there is the god of light, basically, who is the light itself. All three of those are the same. They all represent this light, all of them. You were asking about the serpent coiled around the body.
Yes.
As well. Yeah. So let's have a look at what's going on in these images. There's a man standing as if he is a pillar. Yeah, he is vertical. He's not lying down. When you go from physical to spiritual, you go from horizontal to vertical. Like a pyramid backbone is a vertical thing. It was a flat surface first, and as it rises, the middle rises as a pillar. The central pillar of the king, of the palace of the king, in the myth of Heliopolis, is where Osiris ends up before being brought back to life by his wife Isis. So the king.
So is that where the origin of the cross comes from then? I mean, in that sense, because you said from the horizontal to the vertical, or no? Am I confused?
No, that's fine. You can link it to the cross in that sense. That there's a lot of unexpected coincidences when we look at the symbolism behind this. and the
Okay.
different ways of expressing it. So you can think of the horizontal and the vertical as the cross, yeah, going from horizontal to vertical. But the cross, the normal Christian cross or the Orthodox cross is literally the light that is represented or personified by these men here. This is now a personification because it occurs in the human being. Yeah, so they personify it as if it's a human being. Notice in the middle one, there is light, beams of light coming from his head.
Yep.
And behind his head is the top of the pillar. So it's a pillar. He is now a pillar, holding up the cosmos in a sense. He's found the center of all things. And at the center is the pillar holding everything up. That is a metaphorical understanding. There is no literal pillar. It's just a way of seeing it, a way of talking about it. That heaven is upheld, as it were, by the central pillar. You know?
Is that the same as the Jed pillar then?
Yes, it is. It's exactly the same as the Jed pillar. Yeah, the Jed is the four corners of a pyramid pulled in together in the center. At the same time, they are rising. So there's four pillars as one.
Wow, now I put that together. So yeah, if you were to pull the top of the pyramid up, it would turn into a pillar.
Yeah, basically, the backbone of the pyramid is the pillar, that pillar that you're seeing here. Yeah.
Wow. Insane.
Yeah, right. So there you have the issue of ascension from the ground to heaven, from hell to heaven is ascension. The snake going around him, we can immediately link that to the Ouroboros and follow that through to the concept of DNA. Because everything in nature spirals anyway. So you're seeing an archetype there that covers many things at once. Being a snake, of course, we have the Ouroboros, which represents the cycle in creation, at every single scale being the same cycle, right up to the galactic, right up to the cosmic, you know, the cosmos itself, which cycles like that as well. So it's a way of referring to cosmic cycle that leads from clay to diamond, or the simple to the perfected state. On the right-hand side and on the left-hand side, you can see he is holding a key. On the right, he's holding two keys, it looks like, but on the left, it's the key that he is associated with, and that is the silver key to heaven. First of all, when you find the infinite, you are in heaven and you meet your true self. That is referred to as the golden key to heaven. But then that understanding that manifests itself in the center of your being rises up your nervous system and manifests itself as true understanding of the truth in your head. And that is the second key to heaven, because it completes the loop. You remake the creator. So you have finished creation for God, as it were. You've done the great work. So that key he's holding is the silver key that he is associated with, because he is the light, which is the second silver key. What else is there? The pillar on the left-hand side with he's got the head of a lion, because the light has the same shape as the head of a lion, and its beams are referred to as cat's whiskers, and doubled up as the mane of the lion as well. So it's thought of as the lion's head on a snake's body, because that's literally the Ouroboros again. The cycle of creation has recreated the creator that has the same shape as the head of a lion. Like Yaldabaoth in the Gnostic text. This is Yaldabaoth. You're looking at another version of Yaldabaoth here. The staff he's holding is the what's called Axis Mundi, which refers basically to the pillar again, the same idea as the pillar, being the axis, the central axis of the entire cosmos, because you do find the center of all things by finding this light. It's the creator, so it's at the center of all creation, as it were.
And that's why the Great Pyramid's at the center of the earth, and that's why the earth is at that same angle he's holding right there too, right?
Yeah. He's also showing the angle of tilt of the earth, because we are dealing with the earth while you're on earth. And of course, the earth is a microcosm of the cosmic planets anyway. I mean, every planet is basically the same idea, you know. So the earth has a 23.5 degree tilt. And I bet you that will turn out to be 23.5 degrees if you measure it. I wouldn't be surprised.
It is. I did it already.
Yeah. So there you go.
He's standing on Earth too, right?
Yeah, he's standing on a globe, but it has a diagonal cross on it that immediately conjures to me the four zodiac signs associated with the fixed signs, and their characteristics are associated with you when you complete the great work. I can read them out to you. They're actually down below here. Here they are: fixed signs: Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, and Taurus. They tend to be welcoming and accepting to change. They have a strong sense of loyalty and devotion to loved ones. They're extremely patient. You need, what's up?
No, you were
You need
skipping.
some sort of patience to do the great work. Oh, I see. Can you see this image, the purple thing?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. Yeah, so they aim high, like doing the great work. You aim to the top and have the determination that's needed to reach their goal. So it is simply a recognition. The fixed signs have these characteristics that recognize the nature of doing the great work. So that's why I think they are used to refer to the idea of a cross that relates to the light, which is the result of the great work. All these different things all fit together always, and people refer to it this way, that way, that way. There's different ways of looking at it, astrologically, kabbalistically, philosophically, there's mathematically even, because Nikola Tesla describes the light as the most mathematically perfect object there is, and I would agree with that immediately. Yeah.
So you think he was probably the last person on Earth to be enlightened, maybe?
No, I'm actually reading a book by a French guy at the moment who knows a medium who has had messages from Nikola Tesla. Apparently, he's highly skeptical, but when I read the messages from Tesla, there is nothing wrong with them, and they're very, very accurate. They're extremely intelligent and accurate. It's not a garbled mess. He makes perfect sense, and I'm astonished by that.
About the description of what the effulgence is and everything, you mean?
Yeah, he talks about the cascading cosmos, which is absolutely right. And he refers to the light as the face of God, which is also one of its titles specifically. The file that I use on my computer to store all my images on this subject is called Face of God, because that's the the second title that I found out was associated with this light.
And you didn't know that until after you seen it, of course, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. All that stuff didn't make sense. Christianity didn't make sense to me before. Yeah. Can you see that on screen now? The Mayan calendar.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. So if we go down a little bit and you look at the cross, which is diagonal. Yeah.
Yep.
Showing the four fixed signs that relate to the tarot card of the world. And the four beasts of Revelations, that's what they are. Now look at the demiurge inside the middle of the Mayan calendar. That is a representation of the creative principle, or the light that we've just been talking about. Right there in the Mayan calendar as a face with four, apparently those four issues were how the world was destroyed in the past that people interpret.
Yep.
They think, the earth suffered a flood, then a big fire, and goodness knows what. That has nothing to do with it. You're seeing the four elements there, just like with any other depiction of the demiurge, with four elements. So earth, water, air, and fire, that's what is there. The light is made from those four, and it makes those four, being the creator of them and the product of them at the same time.
I have a very pressing question that everybody, because you just said that there was never four worlds. I mean, do you know of anything, or are you privy to saying if the world was destroyed four times or not? Or
no, you wouldn't be privy to historical academic information. You've got to realize that we're living in a physical cosmos that is full of chaotic action, and there may well have been
hello?
Some terrible catastrophes that were natural, that didn't really, yeah, I heard that, that didn't really help people sustain their knowledge base, let's say. But to be honest, I think the old world has disappeared on purpose by brute force. I don't think cataclysm has wiped out, natural cataclysm has wiped out humanity in the past. I think all the devastation we see in the past, like on Mars, John Brandenburg is well known now for analyzing the features on Mars and the status of Mars. And his thesis is that Mars was nuked by an intelligence. Yeah, it's not a natural cataclysm. And on Earth, it seems like the old gods from the old world were purposefully murdered by power-hungry people who didn't want gods around telling everyone the truth. Because when you want power, you have to maintain a lie. You cannot have truth because you'll no longer have power. You can't
so
have one.
right now we're putting ourselves at risk here, or what?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I've never encountered any trouble. I mean, to be honest, if I was famous and I had and we had 3 million people watching this presentation, that would be a problem. But because I'm not, because neither of us are famous, and there's only a few people watching, and you only get a couple of hundred views on it. Let's say maybe 1,000 views in a couple of months. That's not dangerous, because no one's hearing about it really in the world. There's 7 billion people in the world, and I'm not reaching even a fraction of that.
Do you think so that leads me to the other question is these whatever you just talked about, do you think they're using the soul energy? Do you think like the stadiums are a collection point for that energy? Because our thoughts are energy, correct?
Yeah. We produce lots of energy. Yeah. You could go into that subject, I guess.
Well, we don't have to if it's irrelevant to what our task is. I don't even want to go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is a big subject in itself, and it is kind of irrelevant. I mean, that's another field of study, as it were. Yeah.
Because I'm focused on the one task, and that's what I want to attain. I don't want to, and I've always had this wall that I put up when it comes to that stuff. Is that good for me to attain the light? You know what I mean?
Is it good for you to find the light? You mean?
No, is it good for me to put up them walls, like for the dark stuff, for the sidetrack road? Yeah.
You're well. Anyone is welcome to pursue whatever they want. But the question is, what?
You got to be kidding me! Hello? No way.
Well, you get nothing from them. They just waste your time. So yes. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? I mean, did you just hear Phil, or did he go out on your end too? I mean, dude, it's doing it again.
I saw that. Yeah, you went all quick for a moment.
Yeah, and that's what happened on my end too. And my lights are flashing.
I see.
I mean, as soon as you get to a good, juicy part of what we're facing, it happens every time, man.
Yeah, right.
I just spent $80 on this software, and it better work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's doing okay. I've noticed we haven't had any freezing, proper freezing like with Google.
Right.
So we're okay.
Yeah. So
by the way, you wrote a few questions. Was it on? I think it was an email you sent me. There was a few questions together when I asked you what you want to talk about tonight.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've actually filled out all the answers on that page. So I suppose I better share that again. Okay, let's just share that once more. Right, here it is again. Let me scroll down. Yeah. So first is all the explanations we've already gone through about that pillar. Okay, I think it was on this.
You still there?
Page. Staying on me, hang on. Here we go. Okay, you asked about the ether.
Yes, that's a big question I have.
Yeah, so when I looked it up, often there's, when you have scientists, they they use a certain logic to what they do. And of course, because they're the scientists and the authorities in the scientific community that would use that word ether, they're the ones who have the last say on what happens to it. And there's a lot to say about ether, why A has been taken out of it. So it says online, I found this, that ether with an A is an obsolete spelling of the noun with various definitions relating to air, chemical compounds, and non-existent clear elements filling out outer space. The word ether with an E, as far as I remember, is used to denote the substance that evaporates. You know, it's that liquid. I don't know if you've seen the experiments where you pour some ether into a bowl and put the bowl into another bowl of water, so water sits up against it. As the ether evaporates, it freezes the water because it's literally taking energy away. So there's an issue of confusion over the name ether. And of course, when Einstein came up with relativity, scientists felt the need to change ether into space-time. It is basically the same thing in a way. You could argue that it's the same thing with a different name, with a more technical name when Einstein came along, but you could still call it ether, really. The Microcosm experiment that apparently was 1897 or something, somewhere around there, where they tested the ether, apparently. The problem is, if you listen to a yogi, he will tell you about prana. And prana is another way of referring to ether, which is basically material in its most subtle form. Basically, the ocean of chaos is an ocean of ether. But in today's language, we'd say it's an ocean of energy. See, so it's nothing more than using different words for the same things. And when you go back 100 years and you read those words, you wonder why those words have changed. So it's nothing more than redefining things in different terms, it turns out, when you look into it. There's also another bit underneath this that goes into why A and E are used together in the word ether. And it's a Latin-derived letter that represents different sounds in different languages. The letter was preserved in numerous Latin words brought to English between the 16th and 19th centuries. Though later in this period, AE was usually rendered AE as separate. It used to be drawn together, as it is usually today. So many of these words like ether have dropped the A over the last century or so that, for instance, encyclopedia is now encyclopedia with an E in the middle of it. The A has disappeared. It's an old way of spelling things. They've simply revamped the spelling, really.
Do you think that all of this stuff, like I've noticed, like in the creation stories, where the waters are separated and out of the chaos and polarized, you know, and you notice how I've noticed that as the time went on, there was more and more, you know, it would like double. Is that pretty much into that whole same paradigm, or you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, kind of. If I get you right, the ocean in space that the galaxy is made from, it remains as an ocean between galaxies. So that subtle version of the energy is always there in that subtle way. But the presence of the galactic nucleus, there's a lot to say about that from the other direction that takes a while to explain. Because people would think that if a creator is generated in a singularity, then that affects the ocean around it, as if the singularity is naked by itself. But in fact, the galactic singularity is generated by the physical nature of the material coming together to form the galaxy in the first place. Then the singularity is linked to, because singular nature is eternal, so it already exists. But it exists outside the cosmos. So this is very difficult for a regular person to get their head around without spending a whole day on the material. To try and differentiate between what is outside the cosmos and how can it be in the cosmos at the same time. Well, it's a link that's made to it by the physical material's motion and process. Then there's a singularity. Then there's an effect in the galaxy that generates life to human beings. So it's really a relationship between timelessness and time that it takes a lot to get your head around. It took me a while to understand it, even after illumination, because I just couldn't believe that was what was going on. But it kept insisting, no, this is it, Phil, this is it. Get your head around this. And when I got my head around it and realized it was right, I thought, how the hell am I going to explain this to anyone else? You know, this is going to be a real task to explain this bizarre concept. That,
right.
yeah, the light is outside the cosmos, and yet here it is inside my head, and I'm in the cosmos. How does that work? You know, it's the same light. There's only one.
And it's the light that creates the cosmos, the light that you're talking about in your head, right?
Yeah, yeah. It generates the cosmic process and the galactic process. There's a lot. See how profound it is, and nobody knows about it. So, what point was I making there?
We just said the A off the ether was just convoluted human nature, like everything else.
Yes. So can you hear me right there? You just went funny.
I can hear you.
Okay. So yeah. So in Genesis, it says the waters were divided. That is the distinction between cosmic ocean and galactic process. All that is all the same stuff. Yeah, it's all the same.
You're cutting up.
Oh, the galaxy and the ocean surrounding it is made of this. It's all the same subtle energy, but with a galaxy, it's processing that energy into more complex forms. So there's a distinction between the ocean around the galaxy and the galaxy proper. That's a division of the waters, because it's talking about cosmic water or the cosmic ocean, which is prana or ether. Yeah, subtle energy is ether. And
that substance is chaos. It's neither it's neither polarity, and it hasn't been. That's what separating the oceans is making polarity, right?
Yes, that's right. That's correct. Polarization or quantization. Yeah, technically at the particle physics level, you're talking about quantizing the ether. Basically, you're turning it into something that is like a usable brick, because the creator is doing the great work as well that we finish. Wow. So the process of the galaxy can be thought of as the great work as well. Yeah, it's just that one single cycle that everything is doing. Yeah.
And is that why you've trained yourself to do the explanation in steps, and you do it in a generalized fashion, because for each person it's going to be a different journey, and you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I know what you mean by that. Even though the archetype of the great work is always, it can be written down, it's always the same. It's always clay that makes bricks, that makes a pyramid, so it's capped to become a diamond. That's an archetype. If you apply that to different people, they will experience it differently, uniquely. Yeah, they will put their own information together. You can do the great work by living in England or living in China, or you could even do it living on the moon if you could study the Earth from the moon. You could basically do it like that as well. It all depends on where you are and your situation. But you're going to be doing the same thing archetypally, but in your own way. Yeah. So we're all unique in that sense.
That's the role of the archetype is I mean, the placeholder for the
generalized. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is while you're doing the great work is actually speaking back through you through the information that's around you too, right? It sets itself in front of you if you make the right steps and you find it, right? Because I feel like recently it's kind of been reaching out to me in different ways. I'll find it in movies. I'll find it in, you know, it's kind of weird to explain. People think I'm crazy for saying it, you know, like I made a connection when you told me about what are they kneeling on, Steve? And when you said that to me, it was like you knew that was going to be the thing that wrapped my mind around that particular aspect of where I got to get my mind to. You know what I mean by that? And I seen that in a movie called A Star Is Born.
Right.
Are we destined to be stars? I mean, is that the thing? I mean, our energy, but we are the stars, right? I mean, that's what I'm not getting. It's like you talk in circles, I talk in circles, but that's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah. Okay. So stars. Do you mean stars in space?
Yes.
Actual stars. Right.
Yes,
we don't become actual stars. That is a metaphor for. Okay. So there's another. Again, there's a lot to explain already. You know. So if we look at the once again, the great work is the issue that the cosmos, the universe, is a field of clay scattered with diamonds, and those diamonds are stars. So when we look at the process of the kingdoms, we find the creator at the beginning in monad, a monadic singular situation. He affects the cosmic ocean, or the ocean is polarized from him into usable material, and that is particulate. The next stage from there is the atomic kingdom, where those particles come together in relationship and rotate and organize themselves together. That's the atomic level of manifestation. And at that level, we are dealing with stars. So if you go back to the creative beginning there, you're talking about a galaxy. Then we go to a star, so at the atomic level. Then we have the mineral level, which is a planetary level. The process itself, when we look at energy and matter becoming the vegetable kingdom and the animal kingdom, we can also look at that same sequence in galactic terms. So if we think of the galaxy whole, then we go to solar systems, then we go to planetary systems, the planet itself, then we go to the creature on the planet, and then we go to the brain of that creature. So there's a process as if your brain is a mini version of the whole galaxy as well as being
that's the Hermetic principles, what you just said there then.
Yeah, that's right. As well as
That's the loop.
Yes, that's right. And there are many ways of identifying it. You can talk about it in terms of correspondence, polarization, rhythm, gender, etc., etc. That's one use of words to define what is going on. Another way is to say clay that makes diamonds. Another way is to say that a galaxy makes a brain. Another way is to say the creator generates a human being. It's exactly the same process each time with just different identifications or words.
For me to understand it, though, do I need to understand all of what you just said and the different words that go underneath each category? You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. No, you don't. I mean, I didn't know this before. I've probably read similar things before, but what I was looking for was the overall nature of the cosmos. And when I found out that the cosmic web of galaxies that are all joined together was exactly the same structure as the human brain, when I saw that, the true nature of that, I realized that the human brain is a smaller version of the cosmos. And then you read in Hermeticism that the human being is a microcosm of the cosmos. Well, it's very easy to see that now, because we know what the cosmos looks like on a grand scale. And humans have not been able to do that for a long time. I don't know whether they could do it thousands of years ago. They probably guessed it anyway, but we've only just recently got computer models of the cosmos that show us that. And it looks exactly like the neural network of the brain. So there's proof, scientific proof that the Hermetic principles are true, that Hermeticism is on the right, it is saying the right things. So then when you realize that, you might want to look up Hermeticism, and you'll learn about archetypal thinking, and that will lead you eventually to the concept of dual opposites, and that is one step before unifying them to find perfection. So you're heading in. Yeah, so all learning is taking you to the identification of dual opposites that are perfect opposites, and you won't know how to unify them until you meet the infinite, which is their unification. Yeah.
And me, I have to attract my higher self, God, by doing whatever's right, and and still seeking that knowledge, right? I mean, right now I'm at exactly where you just said, where you said, and I realized that solar system scope alignment and all that is the same as that. Was I right on the money about it's the same as that Axion or what's that myth, that cosmic time God? I mean, is it that lineup and everything, was that the same as that statue? Remember when
Yes, you could say that, because that light is the beginning and end of the tree of life, and the tree of life is expressed in every single solar system. It's the blueprint of all creation, so everything in creation follows that blueprint. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, and I was thinking today before we spoke that there's a lot to say on the idea of meeting the infinite. I don't know whether you're familiar with people who do yoga and the concept of Kriya Yoga.
I know what yoga is. I don't know what Kriya yoga is.
Right, it's a certain kind of yoga promoted by Yogananda, who was a guru from the Himalayas. I think he spent a lot of time in the Himalayas. And he had schools of people doing yoga to get to what I'm talking about. And that's really interesting because I've never done yoga. When you read the Gita, it turns out there is more than one way to get to this result. And that other way, that one of the main ways of seeing that other way is that if you do yoga, you spend a lot of time contemplating useful things and encouraging a stillness of your mind. If you want to meet the infinite, you have to become still in your mind. I didn't know that. So if you do the great work and you don't do yoga, your true self will come and initiate that for you and show you what to do and how to do it. That's exactly what happened to me. But if you pursue yoga, a master of yoga who's maybe made it as a result of doing yoga, you can find it by encouraging stillness of your mind through the action of yoga. The word yoga means to re-yoke, to rejoin your infinite self. So it's the same principle. Therefore, you could, in fact, just do yoga, learn things that are useful, and do yoga and learn how to still your mind through practice. I've never, ever practiced to still my mind. So when it came to this event, I was shown a Buddha statue when I was at Angkor Wat that was 5 feet in front of me, made of bronze, 5 feet high, with a big white circle on its head. And by staring into the light on its forehead, it turned out to be a brilliant white, still light. And by staring at it and forgetting everything else around me, I became the same as it because I basically tuned into it. So by tuning into it, by becoming the same in your awareness as that, you become one with it. And stillness is the nature of rest, which is the nature of what we call heaven. So you find...
In the creation story of what was it, the Sumerians, the Absu was rest and Tiamat, or was it the other way around? But yeah,
that's correct. That's actually correct. Yeah, Absu is the creator in the cosmos, as it were, surrounded by the cosmic ocean known as Tiamat. Yeah, and she's female because the cosmos is considered female. Yeah, nice. It's in her womb that all new life grows, which is a feminine quality. So the cosmos is female.
You know what? You just repeated like 15 things that me and my buddy talked about today on the phone, brainstorming back and forth. Is that a good exercise for people that are in the pursuit of what you've achieved, talking with people?
Yeah, definitely. I was looking for truisms in the outside world, in the cosmos, to understand that and understanding my own psychology. So as I developed, I realized that I was a bit of a prat and I was a bit of not a great person. So I kept, thinking I've got to be a better person. Obviously, that became easier the older I got, but I guess you're focusing on wanting to understand the nature of your existence on the planet. What is your function as a human being? That was my fundamental question. I want to know what is my natural function so that I can do the right thing. And that wish took me in the right direction.
So waking up as a 6-year-old thinking, why am I here, is a good indication that you're going to be enlightened someday.
Yeah, that's the kind of question you should be asking. What on earth am I doing here? What is all this stuff? I don't get it. Why am I here? Why is everything so harsh? Yeah. If I fall over, why do I break my skin and bleed? Why have I got a body that can be broken? What's that all about? How come I'm not perfect and immortal?
Right.
These are questions that you need to answer to yourself. Try and find the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I have another question. Like in the stories of Moses in the Exodus, and they say he lived 950 years, and then you look back further, and people lived longer than that. What's the story with that?
Right. The Exodus, the book of Exodus, is the event, the moment of illumination for any person, repeated over and over and over and over again, from beginning to end. That's all it is. It's one event repeated over and over again. The issue with people living to 1,000 years old could be a throwback to a long time ago when people apparently lived much longer. If they had greater understanding of physical reality, they used various techniques to elongate life. And that is possible to elongate life. I don't know how easy it is to do today, but when you have wisdom and understanding, you can do these things. You know, we're just used to being dead by 80, 90 years old, so we think that's normal. But way back when, the wisdom in the world in the past was phenomenal. It's beyond what we could even possibly imagine today. So we have gone backwards as a species on the planet, in my opinion. I have to put that down to my opinion, but it certainly seems that way. So yeah, the book of Exodus, I'll give you one example of how it tells you about this event of illumination. So when Moses first sees a burning bush, the burning bush is the light. It's just talking about it as if it's a bush that's on fire but does not burn up. Well, that is the cloud of light that you see in the underworld. It also says he went to the far side of the wilderness. The wilderness is the cosmos. So he goes to the edge of the cosmos, which is exactly what happens. You become the cosmos as an awareness, as a brain, as it were, looking out into an infinite void around you. And when you turn around, there's the burning bush. And the angel of the Lord is in the bush. Well, that is Ariel Yaldabaoth. That is the Son of God, the angel of the Lord. It literally tells you, it literally identifies everything for you in the book of Exodus specifically, but it does it differently each time. So you think it's a linear story that keeps changing. It's not. It's one event repeated over and over again in different terms. That's one of the first things I recognized, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought, no, they can't possibly have done that. Oh my God, they have. They've just repeated the same thing over and over again. You know?
You've taught me that in just a week, that everything in the here, if you think of things as in a hero's journey, that everything has a hero's journey, in essence, in creation, right? And then after that, I started thinking, comparing the two opposites, everything's a dualistic thing, and I started recognizing, holy cow, that's this, and this, and then they just jump out at me now, and that's like you said, right there is where I'm at. I was stuck on, I don't know why I let this enter my head, but I was stuck on this. I feel like I'm a flower then, but then I thought, well, I must be the bee that's pollinating the flower. And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm the flower and the bee. Holy and then all of a sudden I'm whoa,
Yeah.
So that's normal is what I'm asking.
You can, yes, that is normal. Yeah. Being exposed to this material is going to transform you as well. So if you think, I didn't have this material, I didn't know what was right and what was wrong when I was younger, but now that I've done it and we talk about it, you can recognize that, that makes sense, and that is useful information. So I can be very useful to other people, and I want to be useful to them because I know this is what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to find your ascension and find true happiness and go on from there. So I really want to help as many people as possible, but it's taking its time to be unfolded and for people to find out I actually know about this. So yeah, talking to you is going to help you a great deal very quickly. And you've already felt the rush of it, I notice.
Yeah, major.
Yeah. There's that first blush of, oh my God, that is right, I see. And it directs you and guides you, and you'll get there quicker as a result.
And that's what my next thing was going to say. I had this block in me saying, well, who am I to know this? And that's mainly a main reason why I was crying. Actually, I felt like I was unworthy. And that's a normal feeling then.
Yeah, that's totally normal. That's how the world will make you feel, because when you look out around you, it's completely different. It couldn't give a damn whether you die or you have the most successful life. It just doesn't care. The stuff around you just does not care. And that can register to a person as though then they're worthy of nothing. But that's not true. You are greater than all the stuff that surrounds you by far. Yeah, so everyone is worthy. Even people who make constant mistakes are worthy if they realize, oh, there is something to achieve. But most people in the world think there's nothing to achieve apart from great wealth.
That's the whole concept of Jesus forgives all sinners, right? I mean,
yeah. If you genuinely want to find the truth itself, you will be helped as well to find it. You'll be prompted. There'll be coincidences, and you will find it. Seek and you will find. That is true.
nice, nice, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
How long we've been going? If at any moment you want to end this, man, you just tell me if you got something to do. I mean, we'll be done by how 7:15 or 7 o'clock sound to you? I mean,
yeah, what's that? In about 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes. Is that good?
Yeah, that's fine, man. Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? I can listen. I can read my phone, but I had one more pressing question that I wanted to ask, and it will come to mind. But say, okay, I just got so much. This is that moment in the day where I told you in the past where I feel like my brain is in my lap and I'm drooling on myself. So forgive me. But you know what I mean? That's what it's like. It's like you wake up in the morning and you're like, yeah, I got it. I realized that. Yeah. And then by the end of the day, you're like, oh man, I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
So what can you tell a person like that? I mean, is that the whole part of the great work? It's not called that for nothing, right? I mean,
that's right. Yeah, it's the great work because it's the most important thing to do. That's all. Yeah. It's not above you. It's not beyond you. It's not beyond your capabilities. It's well within everybody's capabilities to do it. It just sounds fantastic because of the word great. That can put people off to think, well, I can't do that. I'm nothing. I'm a lowly worm on earth. No, you're not. You are the presence of the divine on earth already. Just realize it. That's basically.
Is that where the man is measure of all things comes from?
You can take that to mean that the human is the microcosm of the macrocosm of the cosmos. So the man is the measure of all things in that man is that on earth which finds the truth in definition. So they measure everything, and then when they find the truth, they've gained measure. Yeah, to gain understanding, basically.
So is sun gazing? Do you think sun gazing is a good idea? Like when the sun's at the horizon and staring into the sun, you think that's a good idea?
Yes, I do. I've done it myself after, and I realized that the light on the forehead of that statue that I was staring at was exactly the same. It had exactly the same features going on around it and with it as you see when you stare at the sun at sunset. They're precisely the same. So when I looked at the sun, I thought, oh my God, there's those features again. Oh, I see. So nature is providing a means for you to find stillness. So if you have you can only find it when you have a really nice, relaxing time and you're surrounded by beauty. I was in Angkor Wat. It's beautiful. The weather was perfect. I felt great because I was on holiday. I was relaxed. That's the state of mind you need to be in to find stillness. So if you have like a few days off work and you get away from the modern world, maybe you go camping or something, and when you're nice and relaxed in the evening as the sun is setting, just stare at the sun. Yeah, and focus on the light of the sun and forget everything else, and you should tune in to the stillness of that light, and that will change. That will bring you to a level of stillness. That's what I was trying to get at earlier when I was saying you invite your true self to you, yes, but maybe you can get there by just doing this exercise, and once you're aware of duality, if you do this exercise, you can put the two together when you meet the infinite. I just wonder because I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube by people who are making the video in the countryside while they have found this stillness of their mind, and yet they don't talk about meeting God or the infinite. I've studied that about 3 years ago, a year after my own event, because I was trying to figure it out, and how come no one else is talking about this cloud, so a lot of people find the stillness, but when I was in that stillness, I still had to look inside it to see what else there was, and I found there was a person's presence in it, but only by looking. So first you're aware of like landing in this sort of lovely place called heaven, but there's nobody there at first. It's just that you're in a place, you're like an infinite garden. I felt like I was in an infinite garden, and I didn't realize there was a person in it, pervading it at first. But I carried on looking into this garden, and I found there was a presence in it. And then I realized who it was. And then he turned to look at me because I was looking for it. See, so I think those people who make those videos are simply appreciating the quietness and tranquility of a still state of mind only.
Right. That makes complete sense. And, you know, there's no way of hallucinating what you just said. I mean,
no. I was asked this question. I had an interview in the north of England once with that person I mentioned earlier, Pierre Sabac. He read my book, and he writes about the same sort of things and from an etymology. So we got together, and we had an interview, and during that interview, sorry, I've just forgotten the point. What was the thing you just said? Sorry, Steve.
You can't hallucinate this.
Oh yeah, he was with a cameraman, and they were both asking me, how do you know that what you've experienced is the genuine article? And all I had to do was say, well, it must have been God, because the result of it 5 days later is the exact nature of what is written in all religious scripture. And I can translate them all for you. I can interpret everything for you, and I can explain what all these symbols mean as well. And if you look them up with the old explanations, they match. I've even come up with all sorts of things myself, and I've thought, since illumination, I've written them down, and I thought, that can't be right. Oh, that's just come off the top of my head, surely. And then when I look it up, it's exactly the same as the original.
When I first started looking at the sun, I sorry to cut you off. I just have to, because I'll lose this thought.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
But Danny Wilton's work, you know, the black hole sun.
Yeah.
And after I started thinking about that concept, things started popping up out of my mind. And right afterwards, I would go on YouTube, like Nassim Harriman, how he describes the isotropic vector matrix and how, you know, the oscillations and, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
I thought of that before I even seen it. And then after I seen it, I'd try to make a video and claim that I knew it already, but I felt guilty for saying I knew it already when it was already known on, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. But I don't think you should feel guilty about that, because it's already in you. That stuff that Nassim talks about and some of Danny Wilton's work is inherent in the human being already. You know, that vector matrix concept, that is instilled in your brain, because that's what made your brain in a way. Therefore, your brain reflects that structure. Therefore, you'll automatically recreate that structure.
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
So when this stuff comes to, when you start thinking and having these thought exercises, and then all of a sudden you have an add-on. I mean, people like to call them downloads nowadays. I don't know why they call them that, but I call them epiphanies. You know.
Yes. Yeah. I'd call them more epiphanies. Yeah. Like you say. Yeah. A download is a real whoosh of a large amount of information that has only occurred twice for me since. But yeah, what you say, epiphany, that's the normal nature of it. Yeah.
And when you're doing good for people and you get that upwelling of feeling inside of you,
yeah,
is that getting you closer to your true self?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, basically, it's not going to get you all the way there, because if you look at, think of Mother Teresa. She spent most of her adult life healing or sorting out sick people in India, and yet I haven't done that, and yet I've found heaven. So you don't have to be like that, and that is one path you can use. But she will still have to come back and find definition in another incarnation. You know, you can even meet God after death, apparently. But we're talking about your development, your creation of heaven, your generation of the perfection of God. If you don't do that, you still need to do that. But you can still meet your infinite self, who is God, because he always exists anyway. You know?
Regardless if you meet him or not, you're still going to be have a chance to meet him the next time or the next time or the next time, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's always there. It's always there. The world is not against us. You know, it's there to help us, really. It just seems harsh because it's indifferent, as I've said. You know, that's all. It is there to help.
And every time you say something like that, when you said that, I think man only exists on that which resists, because if it didn't resist, man would exist if not. Is that pretty much what you just said?
Yes, yeah, that's a reference to the indifference, the resistance to the spirit that physical nature has. Really, yeah, it's just physical nature, and it won't change to suit spirit. It's a means of teaching spirit about itself. Yeah,
It's
and
like science versus religion or whatever, church and state, right? Same thing.
yeah, you could say that. Science would be the physical analysis, and religion would be spiritual analysis. Yes, you could get away with saying that. Really, yeah.
And that's like when they separate church and state, when they took religion out of schools, and or the
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Christianity, the normal interpretation of it is so messed up that you cannot use it politically because it's too messed up. It doesn't make any sense. And yet politics has to make sense. Therefore, they have to separate them. You know?
Well, what is this? What can you tell me to help somebody that is on that I know is a good soul, very good, got a good heart. He means well, but he's on this. They hijacked us kick, and he's on this. They're all against us, and and we got to fight. What is the best piece of advice you could give somebody like that?
I'll give you a couple of things. If you overthrow a government with force, you are behaving in precisely the same manner as the government you have overthrown. Yeah, right. You're being forceful as well, and yet you're complaining about the fact that they're forcing their opinion on you, and now you're forcing your opinion on them. You're repeating what they're doing. The only way to overcome that is to fix yourself first. Then you will know the truth. You don't need to worry about what's going on in the outside world in terms of politics, because it will always be a bit of a mess anyway. It's not your fault. You don't have to worry about it. You just do the best you can within its confines. Fix yourself, and then you will have the log removed from your eyes so you can see clearly and now determine what the best course of action is. With that log in your eye, you'll constantly be making the same mistake by thinking that you have to force your opinion on other people.
That's where I'm at. That's good advice, man. I appreciate that.
Right.
And that's going to work. That's going to mend a lot of issues in the way I see things, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You've said that to me before, but it's like, you forget things that mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot to remember anyway, a lot of things to think about. Yeah.
Okay, before we end this, what can you, in layman's terms or in the beginning stages, for people that are really interested, because I'm sure there's several people that have watched this or are going to watch this that are really interested in what you're saying, that will keep the carrot, them chasing the carrot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, now we have the opportunity to see where this all goes and what it all means. And I've written it into a book, as I mentioned before, that's actually free to download on my under my YouTube videos. And the first 4 chapters of that book are all you need to read. They are the most important. The rest of the book is just confirming what the contents of those first 4 chapters from using ancient references. That's all. So it takes about an hour to read through that. So an hour of your life spent reading through that material will get it into your head what is necessary and what it's all about. It's as simple as that. I've done that on purpose because I haven't found anything like it anywhere. I could give you 5 different books to read. You'd have to read all those 5 books. You'd probably lose interest halfway through because you can't relate to half of it anyway. But I've written this to make sure that everyone can relate to it on purpose. I realized what kind of people are going to be reading it, and I thought, what's the best way to communicate this? And I found out. I thought, right, that's how to do it. There you go. There it is. So just go to my a YouTube video that I've made on this subject. Look underneath the video and click on the link to download it and read through the first 4 chapters and see what you think.
You're talking about the Divine Union book?
Yeah, it's called Gods of Divine Union. Yeah.
Well, Phil, you're doing miracles for me, and I'm gonna pay that forward. So your help for me, I'm gonna help everybody. That's what it's all about, and I appreciate you, man, and I really do. I can't thank you enough.
I think you're a great person, dude.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody like you, and I'm kind of lost for words as to how I can thank you or whatever. But I totally appreciate everything you're doing and
Yeah.
have done. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying so, man. It's nice to know that I'm, actually useful. You know what I mean?
You're more useful than you could even fathom at this moment for me. I mean, dude, I've had these questions in my head for my whole life, and when I came across your information, I was like, "That's it," and I was like, and
Yeah.
I've asked you questions to try to get you to paint yourself in a corner, and you never have, and it's pretty cool. So, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you too. Thanks, Steve. You're
But
great.
guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Michelle, Can-Am Free, love you. Serenity, Aaron, I'm glad you came. Brandy, love you. Jerry, I love you, brother. Desert Rose, Brandy, Robinson. Okay, you guys are talkative in there. What's up, my skies? Glad you could come. Eric, Paul, all of you guys, I appreciate you for coming and joining us. 1111. Thank you guys. And we need to keep our nose to the grindstone and keep it up because it's up to us. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me on. Cheers, Steve.
See you, bud.
Yeah, take care, dude.